you want to look good, and what that is, what that meant for me was a confidence boost, because I was never confident. I mean, up until then, even up until now, I still struggle to put on weight, because you have a overactive thyroid. But he says you need to stop working out so much, and I
Right.
thought that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
And he encouraged us and he pushed us and he motivated us and he trained us very hard. He was almost like the Sikh version of CT Fletcher. There'll be days where we might be squatting and we're throwing up, and we'd still be dragged off the ground, like, and told to finish our set. And I felt like the next time I do a leg session with him, do I need to bring a wheelchair? Anybody talked about steroids, it was like during the years of obviously doing my first competition, I've never had so much exposure to the true bodybuilding world. The case is no pain, no gain, and it completely makes sense.
So my guest today is a fitness influencer and has competed in bodybuilding competitions. He is known as Haricules on social media. Welcome, Harinder Bansal. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good. What I like to do at the beginning of every podcast is basically take a trip down memory lane, go all the way back to your childhood and what you were like growing up and what your background is.
So if I was to go back to my childhood, wow, okay. I don't think I can remember that far back now. So I think if I want to keep it fitness related, which I will, I think I've always been physically active as a child, playing football at school, and then jumping into karate for a couple of years, at the age of 11, 12. And then I think continues playing football on the weekends. And then I think eventually getting exposure at college at the age of 16 into fitness. Otherwise, generally as a child, what I was like, very curious, very naughty, very mischief. I don't think a lot of that's changed. Um, and I think having had that exposure at the age of 15, 16 into fitness was probably, stepping into one of the first gyms, which was owned by Temple, owned by Gurdwara. And I used to go there on a couple of days a week to play badminton. And we heard that they also have a gym facility which we went to see. It wasn't anything big; it was very small. They had some basic equipment, and they had some a couple of older guys there, who were training, who were working out. So it was a bit. I think I was a bit curious to see what it was that they were doing. So on some occasions we'd join in and they'll train us. And I remember the first time we were there, we trained with them. We trained chest, and a couple of days later, I actually thought I'd injured something because I was that sore. And and I think that was sort of me then coming to the understanding that you've overworked or you've trained muscle really hard, rather than thinking that I've injured something, which was interesting. And I think growing up, I've never really got my head around how the likes of Rocky Balboa or Arnold Schwarzenegger, had their physiques in the movies, because you never sort of, it's just something that never used to cross their minds. Yes, you would be attracted to that kind of build and that kind of physique, but you never really got my head around as to how they got there until I put my foot into the gym, and you're like, right, okay, I'd love to look like that. And if this is how I'm doing it, and the guidance that was sort of set out, during that period was all about protein shakes. And I think one of the biggest brands at the time was Muscle Tech, CMP, and I think there was a couple of others, but I think Muscle Tech was one of the popular brands during the time. And I thought, right, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to get on. So I bought a few tubs of that. And I got on with it, and I was using those couple of days a week, going to the Gurdwara gym, training with the guys, and all I was really doing was chest and biceps, because that's all you see them doing, so that's all you're going to follow. And it was just chest and biceps, which is interesting, and then eventually, when I was at college, we had a gym in the college, and again, I made use of that facility. And again, age 17, 18. It wasn't anything serious. That that thing was definitely, one thing I was certain. It wasn't anything serious, but it's something that I thought at the back of my mind I did enjoy doing, and this is what I need to be doing in order to achieve that body or that build that I want to get to. So, let alone having very little understanding of what sort of diet I should be following, because no one really educates you on that. And I think that's one of the things I think a lot of the youth are now quite lucky to have, because there's that much resource available online, social media, YouTube and Google and whatnot. And it's all out there now. And that information wasn't available, you're talking about like 10 years ago. So a lot's changed. There's a lot of resource available out there. And I always think to myself, gosh, if I have the knowledge I have now that I had back then, I'd probably be hitting the Olympia stage. Yeah. But so it's been a really interesting learning curve from the point of obviously, starting out into fitness up until where I am now.
Yeah. 100%. I think it is like social media and stuff has made being fit a bit more popular. Obviously, the healthy people and the physically fit people have always been like the gold standard, but obviously because now you can see more people not just on the big screen, whether it be TV or movies, but also like not just people in your own community, but when you can see fitness influencers all around the world, then it becomes, and when a career, I always say that basically like, money is like very intrinsically tied to anything being popular, and because now fitness influencers can make money from it, that the growth of them are substantial. Just going back a tiny bit, so you played like obviously football and badminton things growing up. So we had Manjon, who's a good friend of yours, and he sort of said that he got into the gym because he struggled with his weight. But if you're quite active, are you on the opposite side of that scale of trying, like the skinny kid trying to bulk up, or are you the? Yeah. Right. Okay.
Absolutely. Even, I mean, up until then, even up until now, I still struggle to put on weight. And I thought, well, and I was scratching my head sometimes. I think I just have one of those, metabolisms that just generally struggle to put on weight. I could be having a big meal, and a couple of hours later, I'll be hungry again. I could be eating, spending a day of eating junk food, and the next morning I'll wake up and I'll be still looking lean. And one of the things I've been informed by my GP is that I have and this is going back a couple of years back, and he said, because you have a overactive thyroid, and I went, okay, wow. So what is it that I need to do? And they might prescribe you, from what I can recall, some form of medication, but he says you need to stop working out so much. Right. And I thought that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it did at the time, it did make me want to just sort of take a bit of a step back. And I think I initially did, especially having done my first competition, because you put your body through so much stress, up until the point you're getting onto stage where there's hardly any water in your body, to look absolutely shredded, to the point where you've prohibited yourself from consuming any form of junk food, sugars, salts. So the body, and you're still working out, so the body's naturally in distress. And I think that's the only time I gave myself a bit of a break, a good couple of months, and then I was pretty much back to normal again.
It is interesting because like I sort of relate a lot more with Manj being a bigger kid growing up and sort of getting into the gym primarily to lose weight. And a couple of the lads, so the gym that I used to go to was the one basically across the road from the school, like down the road from the school. So a lot of the people from my year and the years around me were all going to this gym. And me being one of the bigger kids, trying to get in there and start weight training, I would always sort of be envious of the skinny kids going in there and sort of have like building up muscle. I'm thinking, oh, this is so easy. They've just missed out a step. Do you know what I mean? They don't have to lose all this weight. But it is obviously a struggle for yourself as well.
It's a struggle either way. I think, gosh, I wish I started out the other way around. I would have rather preferred to have had the size and then rather have nothing at all and actually really be able to fill out my clothes, and not have to sort of always constantly use the belt around my waist to fit into my trousers. But I think it's a struggle either way, and I've seen a lot of guys who have had it the other way around have probably benefited a lot more because they've potentially come from having and holding that size. And the same sort of speaks out where there's certain scenarios in the fitness world where strong men have come from being strong men into bodybuilding purely because of the size and the weight that they're currently holding. And their diets are completely different, and they've turned out to be very successful bodybuilders. But then again, it also depends as well, because fitness and bodybuilding, there's just so many paths, right? Because you get now, if I was to sit here and highlight some of the categories, for example, you've got everything in the men's category from men's physique, which is a very much going in with a beach body, sort of look very slim, not necessarily holding a large amount of muscle mass, which for a guy who's generally just slim and he's managed to maintain and gain some small amounts of muscle mass, is perfect. But then you have everything from there going on to a muscular or a classic physique where you're holding slightly more muscle mass than to obviously a professional heavyweight bodybuilding sort of category. So these all categories, they all vary. So yes, for a skinny guy, it'll be a hell of a lot more challenging to kind of get to that level. But then, if you have a look at it, for a guy who's naturally holding a lot of mass, regardless of that being more fat, he's got more of an opportunity to kind of like not jump straight from, a men's physique. He's got a better opportunity going straight into a classic or a pro body purely because of having to hold that size ratio. And I've actually taken that off a couple of documentaries that I've watched. Otherwise, yeah, it's either way, it's a challenge. There's tons of amounts of consistency involved. Doesn't matter which way you look at it. It's hard work either way, and it's all very much down to the individual's mindset of how much they're willing to put in to get out.
100%, couldn't agree more. I think when the grass is always greener on the other side is the perfect saying. So I think that's the perspective I had back then. But the older you get, the more you realize that, and the more you speak to people as well. So obviously, as the big kid, when I'm speaking to skinny kids, they're talking about how hard it is to put on muscle mass, and then they're looking at me when I'm lifting more weights, because I'm used to carrying around this weight, as you said. And they're thinking, oh, I want to sort of get my strength up. So it's always like the grass is always greener on the other side. But I couldn't agree with you more that everyone has their own sort of struggles, and it's the consistency and how much you want it to get through it. Just on the documentaries that you said, could you share some of them just for my personal interest? Which ones you were watching? Obviously, I spoke to Manj about Pumping Iron being one of the most notorious bodybuilding films, but is there any others?
No, there's tons. And I'll be happy to share some links over to you. So a lot of the ones that are most interested to me is along the lines of you are what you eat. So if you have a look at those, and there's a huge science concept around how your body's reacting to what you're consuming, and then there's documentaries around individuals who have certain builds. Whether you're endomorph. Or I can't remember the name now. There's endomorph and there's two others. Oh my god, I can't remember the names. Ectomorph. Thank you. There you go. And they very much talk about maintaining and gaining muscle size for those particular kind of builds, which is another interesting one. So it's always good to sort of watch those and sort of be able to understand and relate it to yourself. And then also be able to sort of, in the same sense, guide others when those questions do come your way. So I think, documentaries like, Pumping Iron, which is probably one of the first documentaries, from what I can remember, followed by, I think, some of the latest ones, which is Generation Iron. and there's been generation 1, 2, and there's a third one, which I think came out at some point, not last year, possibly the year before. So, but not even those. I mean, there's other documentaries done for the likes of Rich Piana. He's done his own. You'll get the likes of Gaspari, who's Rich Gaspari, who's another old school bodybuilder. He's done his own. So you'll find tons of fitness or bodybuilding documentaries out there.
Yeah, I go through periods of whenever you need motivation, you always just go on Netflix and have a flick through a lot of them. I quite like the CrossFit documentaries as well, or the ones that they do around the games. Going back, as you said, that you want to sort of have something to aspire to, and with the body shapes, and you want like relatability. Do you think that sort of helped with the Godwara gym, because you see in other Appanemunde who were getting big and things, so it's not like you're seeing, as we were saying before, like on the tubs of your protein powder, you're not seeing these juiced up sort of massive guys, but you go into the Godwara and you see Baji, who you normally sit down next to in Sangat, and he might be able to help you. Do you think that eased your transition into the gym as well?
Not necessarily. I think yes, I've been very lucky to have been around sort of like-minded people and people who motivate me. But I think where going to the Gurdwara gym, it was my sort of very first introduction into fitness. Other than having worked out with some of those individuals, I don't think I went away with anything with any nutritional knowledge. And whether that was, I think it was because I was too young. Because I think if any 15 or 16-year-old came to me and had bodybuilding questions, I'd probably be asking the individual to focus more on nutrition than bodybuilding. Just as much as important is to be working out. But I think at that age, I think it's personally, I think it's too young to be stepping into bodybuilding. Otherwise, there's plenty of other there's plenty of workouts, and there's plenty much more for them to do to remain physically active and physically strong. But would I ask them to go into the gym and start pushing heavy amount of weight on a bench or on a squat? Whether that will impact their growth to a certain extent, and whether they'll be able to maintain a good diet, as well as continues focusing on the education and everything else, I think I would probably be a bit reluctant to share more information on bodybuilding than I would nutritionally. Because
I didn't mean as in like to go like hardcore into bodybuilding. I just meant sort of as in your first introduction to weight training in general, like at the basic level.
Okay. Oh yeah. No, definitely. In which case, sorry, completely misunderstood your question there. Sorry. In which case, I would have no problem at all. I think I'd, be very comfortable and very, very sort of easy to approach to in that manner, with regards to sort of gaining that level of knowledge and being able to gather that level of experience.
Yeah, because I asked because I have seen, like, obviously down south, when you get to your Manchester's, Birmingham, Staffordshire, I think is where you're from, and London, a lot of Godwaras do have like gym facilities and things that are included with it, and it does seem like a really good thing to bring like a lot of the community together, especially like young people. When you did start first weight training at the Godwara gym, and then you start to become a bit more knowledgeable. But like, when do you think? I always use this phrase, "catch the bug." Like, when do you think that you found like the spark, the passion for it?
I think I'm going to say it'd have to be after college, starting university, at the age of 19. From what I recall, because I was at the age of 19. Going back and looking at some of the pictures, I think I started to get a much more of a better build. I was generally more interested in mixed martial arts at that stage. And I joined, a club called MMA Fearless, and I spent a couple of years doing mixed martial arts. At the same time, we were weight training. Now, whilst picking up self-defense, which is obviously, again, having watched several movies and whatnot, you think, oh gosh, I want to be able to, want to be able to defend myself, and I want to be able to learn some of these special skills, because it's never safe out there, and you always see individuals getting into fights or into trouble, and I think from that point on, I realized I wasn't actually physically, I wasn't actually getting any bigger. And if anything, I was getting much leaner. And I think the approach I wanted to gain at the time was, I still saw some mixed martial art fighters out there who had incredible builds, who were much bigger, but still able to move much faster, holding that much amount of muscle mass. So having speaking to the coach at the time, he got me to do a bit of both. So I was still weight training at that gym at the time. And I realized that I was more passionate about bodybuilding than I was about mixed martial arts, because I felt like I picked up most of the basics from mixed martial arts. And I think that, going forward, the steps was then to do interclub, where you're fighting other schools and whatnot. And I don't think I was so keen on that. Where other individuals, who I was training with were. And at that point, I think I kind of stepped out, and I remember joining I came across another, big thing. Again, I don't think you'll find this guy anywhere on social media. And he was a powerlifter himself. He had his own private gym, had, great amount of facility. So myself and another individual who is on social media, known as Acing Flora, we joined together at the time, and and that's probably where we, first initially met. We started training together, and this was at the age of 19, where we started out, and we were working out together with this thing. And although he was a powerlifter, very, very big guy, and he encouraged us, and he pushed us, and he motivated us, and he trained us very hard. He was almost like the Sikh version of CT Fletcher, honestly, because he was very brutal, in the sense that if you weren't pushing your weight, he'd make sure you're pushing your weight. So we had it quite tough to begin with, where there'll be days where we might be squatting and we're throwing up, and we'd still be dragged off the ground, like, and told to finish our set. So, and as much as we hated it at the time, we used to, there were days where, like, we'd like sort of question, do I want to go and train today? I'm not sure if I want to do it. I don't think I could do it, but we did it because at the same time we saw the difference, we saw the change in the body, and it became, and it literally, it reminds me now, obviously hear it now, and the words weren't with me back then. But the case is, no pain, no gain, and it completely makes sense, because you have to put your body through hell to see a difference. And even now, I see individuals who come into the gym, and they get a bit of a pump, and they think they've had an incredible workout, and they call it a day, and they've gone home. And that's just not how it works. And then they'll go online, and they'll buy tons of supplements and Gymshark this, and it's very all for show, until you've not really, you'd be surprised. And and a number of times where, even in some commercial gyms, I think it's almost just like a bit of a social club for a lot of people, and nothing's ever taken seriously. But then they question why they're not making any serious progress. And I think, if I'm honest, I think 50% of people aren't serious, but they want to make progress, and whether they don't have the right guidance or the right mindset, and they're lacking motivation. But I think I'm quite thankful to have started from a point where we were pushed to our limits at a very early age, to the point now where when we're training, we know exactly what we need to be doing, to be achieving what we want to achieve, with the support of coaches and whatnot, especially if you're competing. But sorry, just going back to your question, I've just spun off into a thing there. It's a growth process. Which way you want to look at it. I think there's a huge transition that individuals go through, especially myself, of trying to understand what works for you best and what you're most passionate about. And in the end, for me, it's bodybuilding.
Yeah, there's a few things there that I like. Obviously, a few different topics in that mini tangent, let's call it, respectfully.
Yeah.
The thing that I noticed is, and I'll happily say this because I was one of them people, is there's a lot of people who have all the gear but no idea. And I think that's what you alluded to before. And as I say, I'll happily admit this because I was one of them in the early days of buying, certain hoodies and things that would signal this is my gym hoodie because it's got a gym brand on. And then you go to the gym, and then the older you get, you could be in batte kapre or whatever. Do you know what I mean? You still go to the gym, it's fine. If it works, it works. Do you know what I mean? As long as you're not going there naked, you're fine. Do you know what I mean? Everything else is okay. But
No,
sorry.
you all do know. Everyone, honestly, everyone goes through, a period or even a phase where it's all about a particular brand, or they want to look a certain way when they're working out or whatever it is. And I know even now, sometimes if I find, something nice on a gym T-shirt or a nice slogan or a wording, I'd be like, that's quite nice. I mean, I'm quite keen of Animal Pack, which has been around for years. And I think, and that's only because Animal Pack, when they initially first started out, their approach has always been a very hardcore, nitty-gritty gym theme and hardcore train, very old school, where, some of these bodybuilders are absolutely huge and so they've that's the kind of approach they've given. And I absolutely love that approach. I love the old school bodybuilding approach where you're not in a clean, tidy gym, and it's all like shiny and clean, and you've got all these fancy machines. It's very old cast iron, and you're absolutely giving your 100, and that's what this apparel or this gym brand is about. And that's probably why I would appeal to that. But where you see some brands, I don't know, I don't want to say Gymshark. In fact, I will say Gymshark. I think Gymshark is probably one of the most popular brands out there, which people now see that as, I don't know, where it used to be Nike, it's now Gymshark or a couple of other brands, where if you don't feel like you're fitting into the gym without that brand.
Yeah.
You feel like, I think some people, conversations with people in the past think, it's a well-known brand, and they feel like if I get a Gymshark where I'm fitting into the picture and it would look good on my social media, great. But what is it doing for you?
Yeah, the actual benefits are not as much.
Yeah. If that brand for you is motivating you, is making you want to train harder, and it has and you feel like it's going to significantly change your mindset and your approach to your fitness goals, great, do it. But in individuals where they'll get it because it's a new gym fashion thing, then that's something that I think people need to sort of take a step back and just sort of realize they could be going and wearing anything and no one's going to really care. So yeah, and the like goes for, gosh, you could think of tons of brands, but yeah, there's so many out there. And I think one of the huge bodybuilding brands, if you're a professional bodybuilder, you'll know Gasp, which again, it's been around for years, and Gasp is another one of the bigger brands that I'm aware of. And now you've got other brands like Under Armour, which again, I like Under Armour. I kid you not, I like Under Armour because I feel like when I wear it, I watch The Rock, Dwayne Johnson's videos, and he's got his own Project Rock thing, and I love his training because his training is really good. And I feel like I'm pushing myself so much better. It's a mindset thing, isn't it? I could whereas sometimes, some days I won't be wearing Under Armour, but I'd still be in that same mindset purely because of the music that I'm listening to, or I've had a really good day, or whether I've had a tough day, and this is now me time and my time to sort of stress release.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like if it does help you psychologically, then there's obviously no there's no one else who can interfere and say don't wear that because it's not doing anything for you. If it does, fair enough, but I think it's the people who buy it out of like peer pressure or anything. And as I say, I was one of them people when I was younger. The other topic that I sort of really like that you were saying before was the training partner aspect as well, because you don't push yourself nearly as much as you would normally, as much as even myself, again, as myself an example, even as much as I'd like to say I'd push myself as hard as possible by myself, 100% when you have somebody else with you there. Last week on the podcast we had Adam Collard, and me and him trained together for ages, and he's the one that pushed me into fitness more and more and more, and as you say, getting to the point where you can do one more set if you're on the floor almost crying or something. It's like, no, go and finish your set, sort of thing. So yeah, that
there will be, which is great. There will be days where you do need a training partner. You do need that extra push and spot during your workouts. Starting out, especially if you're starting out, gosh, 100% if you're starting out, you need, it's good if you have a training partner, and you feel like you're not pushing yourself enough, which in most cases that can be true. But there's some days where I feel like I just want to train by myself. And I know that I'll go in and I'm in that right frame of mind today. I've followed my diet, and I'm all carved up, and I've got the energy. My energy levels are up to here today, and I know I'm going to go in, and I'm not going to have a good workout, and I don't need a training partner. And I suppose this goes for a lot of guys. There'll be some days where you're quite happy and comfortable training by yourself because you're gonna blast out your own workout. But there will be some days where when you want to I don't know, go for a PR, for example, and you will need someone there to motivate you, or you may just need a spotter because you want to be doing better, and you feel like you've kind of hit a wall with your training. But I've been through, gosh, I've worked out with a lot of different people, especially initially starting out, and they've all had training partners. I can't think of anyone right now that's just continuously been training by themselves. At some point, you would have trained with someone. So I think it's important because you will get that extra push.
Yeah, definitely. I am the more that I like train by myself. I do enjoy that a lot more. I do that more often. But when you do train, like say even if you're doing the same workout identical with somebody and without, I do feel that the impact that the other person has, and when you're motivating each other and bouncing off each other, it does make a massive difference. The other thing that you mentioned before was when you started seeing the impact physically when you were in like your early 20s or like 1920. So when you started getting into the gym, what impact did you see physically straight away, but also what impact did you see mentally? Because obviously the gym is really good for like mental health in general.
At that age, gosh, I don't think I had any stress, and I wish I can go back. I think it was more of a case where it was not just a social thing at that age, but it was a case where we were all there to push and motivate each other. And each time we went in, the idea was that we're going to walk out exhausted, knowing that we've achieved a great workout, but also knowing that the changes that I'm making here today is going to help me with my growth. And it was. And gosh, I remember the first time I trained legs with this guy. He put me through hell. I'm not going to, I kid you not. And I think that goes for a lot of people. The first time they've never ever trained legs, and they think I'm cycling, I'm running, I'm training legs. No, not quite. And that's what I used to think. I used to think, gosh, yeah, my legs are strong. I cycle, go running and play football and whatnot. Until he gave me a leg workout, and I kid you not, I threw up and everything. And it was a very of exercises starting with squat, leg press, lunges, leg extensions, and hams, which was a hamstrings workout on the hams machine. And by the time I'd done all that, I was struggling to walk, and struggling to drive home because there was literally no clutch control because the foot was, the muscles just weren't functioning. The brain's telling the muscles, you need to be doing this, and it just wasn't happening. And to the point where you're worried that you're about to pull a muscle. Luckily, I didn't live too far. I only lived 5 minutes down the road at the time. To the point where I got up the next morning, and it was almost like I'd lost my legs and I was disabled. I remember I didn't go to uni for a couple of days. I called into sick to work, and for 3 days I was homebound, and I'm never gonna forget that. And even now, when I speak to him, we look back and we laugh about it. And even he knows, I think for a first time having a leg workout, it was brutal. It was very brutal. But I remember calling him up on the second day, and I said, I think you've done something to my legs. And he's laughing down the phone saying, you're absolutely fine. Make sure you're drinking loads of water, get your protein in, get a good amount of food in you. You'll be fine. Just rest up. He goes, don't lie down, don't sit for too long. Just stay as active as you can. And stairs at that time are not your best friend. So walking up down the stairs, gosh, and I felt like the next time I do a leg session with him, do I need to bring a wheelchair? so that kind of like, and it made me realize that this is how you grow, because a week later, when I was looking at my legs and I was tensing my legs, and I was like, wow, they feel incredibly good, and I'm looking at them in the mirror as most guys do now. You look at yourself in the mirror every day and you're looking at the progress, you're looking how lean you're looking, how good you're looking, has my arms gone bigger or my abs still there. And I was looking at them, I was like, they look bigger than before. And that was just after one workout, and that's probably because they were still sore. But and it made me realize that this is the only way I'm going to grow. So so during that time, it was like a love-hate relationship with legs. So every time we'd get there, we knew, oh, today's leg day. We knew we had to do it, and it had to be done because there was just no way out, and there's no way we were going to escape him, because this guy was brutal, and he'd grab you and he'd make sure you do it, because he wouldn't expect you to come in and just do upper body. And today, oh, you know what, I'm gonna do my chest, I'm gonna do my shoulders, I'm gonna do my arms today, because that's what appeals to me, the whole. And then then they used to laugh about it. They used to say, well, you don't want to have this Johnny Bravo kind of look where your legs are like this, and you got chicken legs, but your upper body, your upper posture's like out there. So he had us working out full body workouts, and even a month later, I was looking at myself. I was thinking, wow, I'm looking much better. I'm looking bigger. And he helped me put my diet straight. He said, you need to be consuming complex carbs. Things like your oats, your sweet potato, and whatnot, and down as much as white rice with your meals. And it's not a bad thing to eat roti. You can still eat roti with our sabji. It's absolutely fine, because it's not like I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to gain weight. So what he encouraged was, the more I eat, the better. And no one's ever told me that. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that until 1920. And they were like, well, look, it's quite, and the way he explained it, it's quite simple. The more you put into your body, the more you're going to get out, right? If you're not giving your body the nutrients that it needs, then you can't expect the body to change. And that's where I started to slowly realize where I was going wrong or what I need to do. Even at that stage, whilst I was training, I was enjoying it, I still wasn't serious. I think because back in my mind, I just wanted to build a body where it just looked good, and and I knowing that when I wore a t-shirt, I'd fill out that t-shirt, and I would look attractive and be like, yeah, this guy's got a good build, because that's what it was about at that age. You're at uni and you want, and all you really care about is, sorry, other than your studies, you want to look good, and what that meant for me was a confidence boost, because I was never confident. growing up as a child, there's no sad story behind this for me, and I never got it tough or never had it hard in any kind of way, but I did. If anything, I lacked confidence. And when people started complimenting me like, dude, wow, look at your arms, you're great, it's not the other, and it always comes from the guys. not what you want, but hey. And not what I wanted at the time, but and a lot of the guys would sort of encourage you, and they'd be like, yo, keep at it, or I want to join in, I want to train with you. And then I started training with different guys at the gym, people who I had lectures with, and again, it wasn't serious. We just did it like once a week, whilst I was focusing probably more on my studies and social life, as you do at uni, while still trying to maintain a good physique. So whether that meant I was training once or twice a week, and I'd probably sometimes, some weeks I'd go into the gym and I would try to train everything. And I'll spend a good 2 hours, and and I'll be absolutely starving going home. But then on the way home, I'll be like, oh, McDonald's. Because no one's told me that I can't eat McDonald's. All I know is that I just need to eat because I'm hungry. And whether that's bad for you or good for you, I don't, it doesn't matter. I know that I need to get big, I need to put weight on, and I've been told that I should be consuming as much calories as possible. And at the time, you don't really understand good fats, bad carbs, good carbs. So yeah, and then obviously eventually after graduating, I don't think I trained properly again for a good 5 years, until I came across some old friends. I'll mention their names. Who's a professional bodybuilder, the likes of Randeep Lote, known as Randeep 911 on social media, and I've known him for a very long time, since going to as young guys going to the Gurdwara together on a Sunday, and bumped into him, and then seeing his level of training at the time was an eye opener for me, because when I knew the guy being very skinny, as you mentioned, he was one of those really skinny guys. And I hadn't seen him for a long time. And then I've seen him at the Gurdwara, like after 3 years. Because obviously after uni, you go your separate ways and you get into your busy working lifestyles, whatnot. And I came across him and I was like, wow, you've significantly changed. And he was one of the individuals that took their training very seriously. Even up until today, he still takes it very seriously, which is incredible. And he gave me the inspiration that I was lacking to kind of realize I could do this. I should be doing this. So I got back into training with him, and he was training at Ultimate Fitness in Birmingham. Obviously, it's moved location now, and they call it version 2.0. And so I started training with him, and then obviously I did a few sessions with him, and I realized I'd lost my passion for this. I lost the motivation, but he helped me get it back, and that's what encouraged me to go back into bodybuilding, and then keep going. And at that point, where as I was talking about earlier, 5-6 years ago, when I started uploading my first contents of my training, that's where it all started, and people started giving me good feedback. And that's what encouraged me even more to keep going and keep showing people workouts that I had learned off other people, so that going forward. And then I would get regular messages saying, what's your diet like, what are you eating, and all this information was purely me asking questions from other people at the gym. And I don't think I was never scared to approach anyone. And generally the first question would be, dude, what protein shake are you taking? Because and you'd see some of these bodybuilders, and they'd say, yeah, I'm taking this, but there's so much more to it, because there is vitamins involved, and there's BCAAs, and there's tons of other stuff. But what professional bodybuilders at the time would never share, and it's not a big thing anymore, but it was 5-6 years ago, where anybody talked about steroids, it was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, it's illegal, they're taking injections and stuff. And I was really confused, when they were, if anybody mentioned a certain type of steroid to me, I'd have no idea. I started taking creatine because somebody said, get on creatine, it's good for you.
Yeah.
I was taking creatine, but I realized it was starting to bloat me. And I think they didn't have different types of creatine then. I think there's just one set of creatine. Now you've got HCl and microlized creatine, and there's different types now, healthier types, shall I say. And until I think I was ready to compete, only then I got under the right guidance. I had a coach saying, you need to be taking these supplements, is the polite word. So there were certain types of steroids, and I was scared. I was a bit conscious of it because I was a bit nervous, and knowing that you're putting a needle inside you was scary. In order to sort of achieve what you wanted to achieve, because all the other bodybuilders were doing it. And if you wanted to compete, that's the route that you're having to go down, because of all the other individuals on these supplements. And in order to go against them, you're going to have to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of the fitness industry is about. Now there's federations out there that are I don't know if they're tested. I've heard rumors that some are, some aren't, but they are natural federations, and they're not very big. They're not very big federations, but the ones that are, you're not tested, because anything goes, and nobody's gonna possibly look the way they are naturally. Arnold Schwarzenegger wouldn't be looking the way he is today naturally. Sylvester Stallone, taking the likes of growth hormones, isn't looking the way he is naturally.
Yeah.
So there's tons of stuff out there, and I think those were gosh, during the years of obviously doing my first competition, I've never had so much exposure to the true bodybuilding world, because although your belief this whole time was that these guys must be training incredibly hard. And I'm not saying that they are, because in fact, when you are taking steroids, you're having to train much harder for it to work.
Mm-hmm.
So for people who, and I'm not afraid to talk about this, and I think a lot of people do, and they shy away from it, they avoid the topic. I think a lot of people are under the under the misunderstanding that if you're taking steroids, you're building muscle very easily. You're actually not.
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing, because how steroids work, all they really do, in theory, is help your muscles recover much faster. So you're able to put them through hell for that muscle to grow. I don't know if you know, steroids were originally formed for people who suffer accidents to speed up their recovery.
Yeah.
In the same way, what you're doing is you're injuring the muscle in order for the muscle to heal and come back stronger. And that's exactly what steroids, and there's obviously tons of different types of steroids that that do different things. Some that help you burn fat, and some that help you bulk, and some that help you maintain. And that's a whole new topic. So I won't get into that, but I'll give you an overview. So some people who are under the misunderstanding that steroids are the easy route to building muscle. It's actually not. It's actually possibly the most toughest route, because not only are you putting your body under risk, but you're also having to make sure that steroids works, because you're having to feed your body with double the water intake. You're having to push your body through much harder training levels, in order to make sure whatever you're consuming is working. And on top of that, you're having to take a number of vitamins and minerals to support the body, to making sure that the body isn't suffering in any shape or form. So yes, there are benefits, but as you know, where there's benefits, there'll also be some disadvantages and side effects to an extent. and that's it. So when I get youngsters asking me about it, what's your cycle? I think I'm always like, yeah, if you're not serious and if you're not going to compete, don't do it. And that's my advice. Um, I think I took the step because I was competing. But I think now, if I'm honest, we've gone way past that process and it doesn't really matter anymore. The only advice I would give, if you're doing it, make sure that you're doing it under right guidance through a coach or someone who knows what they're doing. Because obviously, I think even in this country, but especially in India, the number of deaths in the youth is high due to the misunderstanding of the use of these drugs. And they're usually labeled down to he died of a heart attack, but they don't really like to talk about how did he get the heart attack. And
Yeah.
But I won't. I'm sorry. I know we're going to be off topic. I won't talk about that. But that's again. That's a whole different kind of worms. But I'll keep to the point where having sort of then getting that inspiration from like-minded people, like Randy and whatnot, and seeing what he's achieved, even till this day, what he's still achieving going forward, and not even being his full-time job. It's incredible, but he's not the only other one. Gosh, I could think of plenty more. I can give you, obviously you've spoken to Manjin, Manjin's Line Flex's story, and even another person who's close to me, known as the Flying Turban, Rajay, pilot,
Right.
Working different hours, flying different hours, still managed to do number of competitions, still managed to keep on top of his diet and his training. Again,
Yeah.
Another yeah, sorry.
So it is so I actually quite like this topic because my thesis was at university was regarding steroids. So for me, this is a brilliant sort of topic that was stumbled across, which I'm really interested in. I think from a personal perspective, anyway, I think the education surrounding it has improved, as obviously like over the past couple of years, as the fitness industry in general has. More people obviously talk about the nooks and crans of it. The issue I have is when people, and I think this again is an evolution of social media and fitness influencers and the wider fitness industry in general. Is a lot of people who I personally know who were taking steroids had natural in their bios and things, and it's one of them things where like. And I'm happy that you publicly talk about it and say, look, the physique I have is enhanced, but and I completely agree with the fact that you said that it's a supplement at the end of the day. If you take creatine, it's not going to do anything unless you're in the gym. If you are on DK, it's not going to do anything unless you're in the gym. It's a supplement at the end of the day. You have to accommodate for all of it.
Yeah, nothing's going to work. Anything you put into your body, it's not going to work unless you do. Mm-hmm. And you could take tons of protein powders and tons of other supplements. If you're still not putting in the effort and you're not putting in the work, then don't expect those results. And don't be questioning the products. You really ought to question yourself and see whether you're doing it right. Which is why I'm saying, if you're doing any of that sort of stuff, make sure you're doing it under the right guidance. Make sure you've got yourself either a nutritionist or a good coach to sort of guide you through those. Because and that's another thing. There's so many coaches online, and I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. There are some good coaches, but there's also some bad coaches. There's some coaches who claim they're coaches and don't have any form of qualification. And again, there's some personal trainers who aren't great personal trainers. And just make sure that you've got some form or somebody giving you the right advice and guidance if you're going down that route. Otherwise, you're putting yourself at risk. And that's the only thing that that's the only thing that I can say.
Yeah, 100%. Unless you are taking it as serious as to step on stage and you have to equal the playing field. Because as another thing that I want to mention was it's similar to the strongman events, World's Strongest Man. There are
Yeah,
powerlifting competitions and strongman events which are natural because they test there. But how many of them have you seen on TV? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't happen. People want to see the biggest numbers. They want to see the Mountain from Game of Thrones. Want to see Eddie Hall because of these gargantuan numbers. And it's similar in bodybuilding. Like you want to see these guys on stage who were ripped to shred with absolutely like oozing muscle mass. They don't want to see like the smaller competitors.
I think it's very hard to identify what's natural and what isn't. And the same goes for strongmen. The same goes for CrossFit trainers, um, because there are CrossFit trainers out there who again are on enhancements. You know, um, and and it amazes me because, especially, you get some individuals who claim that they're the vegan bodybuilders, but there's no way you're going to gain the amount of muscle mass that you have from a vegan diet. And they don't talk about enhancements, which is fine, and but don't mislead or misguide the public.
Yeah.
And there's 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 so much, there's a huge lack of education in a lot of areas in the fitness industry, in the fitness world. And when I get people approaching me with questions, I am very honest, and I will just say, give it to them black and white. I don't shy away from the fact that, yes, I have taken enhancements. It is what it is. And I think to a lot of people who know fitness, who know bodybuilding, it's pretty obvious. They don't like to talk about it, and I don't know whether you want to save that for a different topic, but anyone who's competing has taken some form of enhancement to support them to look the way they do. And I'm not saying that you can't achieve this naturally. Of course you can. But at the same time, that depends on the amount of muscle mass you're holding. So if I see someone, I'll give you an example. So if I see an individual who's competing in men's physique, and whose weight ratio might be anything between 65 to 75 kilos, and he's lean and he's not holding a huge amount of muscle mass, I wouldn't question whether he's whether he's possibly a natural or not, because there are some only in that category which are natural. But anyone who's a pro bodybuilder holding a huge amount of muscle mass, I highly doubt it you're natural.
Yeah.
I can 100% say that because I think I've been involved in the fitness industry, especially in the bodybuilding part, long enough to see what's natural and what isn't. To sort of be able to identify that. And there are some individuals who are still a bit naive that don't. But but where the question comes to myself, it's if you want to compete, then yeah.
Yeah, I think everything comes down to education at the end of the day, because there is like a massive still misconception probably with steroids that if you take them, you're just going to blow up and become a monster, and you're going to become the Incredible Hulk, which is definitely not the case. I think the most famous, definitely by a mile, the most famous steroid sort of story ever is Lance Armstrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's nothing to do with bodybuilding. It's nothing to do with muscle mass. That's to do with endurance. You hear it in boxing all the time. A lot of the as a huge boxing fan, a lot of the drugs that they get tested for and become positive is mainly endurance drugs, so that they can last the rounds and things like that. So is education in a wider sense, because there's so many things that can do a plethora of different things.
Yeah, the same happens in the Olympic sports as well. There's certain athletes that are on enhancements, and they've been treated with enhancements.
Yeah.
it's not like you watch it and they show tests whether they've been, it's difficult to show whether they've been tested negative or positive.
But even that's difficult, because I don't know if you've watched the documentary Icarus. Regarding it's on Netflix, and 100% guarantee recommend it to you. It's about the Russian scandal. So now Russia weren't allowed to compete in the Olympics for a few years because they tested.
I did hear. Yeah, sorry, I did hear something about that. I didn't know there was a.
So that documentary basically is a cyclist who wants to do like a race 1 year clean, and then the next year on enhancements. He gets the help of basically the head of Russia's anti-doping agency to say, how can I do a cycle properly and still test negative on the day, which will improve my performance. But the reason the documentary is so good is because the person who helps him actually is the one who has been basically given steroids to the Russian Olympic team for X amount of years. They get busted, and Putin basically just tries to get involved and say he's an enemy of the state, and then he has to flee to America, and it all goes wild. So the documentary is amazing because of that real life twist, but it does highlight like steroid use in that sense.
Right. Okay. Cool. I will look at that. That's quite interesting. So yeah, I think whilst I was going through the phase of uploading my videos on Instagram and training, more and more people started to pop up on social media on Instagram, and and I really liked what everyone was doing. So I didn't hesitate to drop a message, and because of my job at the time, I was generally traveling a lot. So I was using that opportunity to catch them in their area and train with them at their local gym.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was the way I saw it was good, because whether they were learning off me or I was learning off them, we were on the same journey, and we were collaborating together, which worked in my favor and worked in their favor, because when we were putting this on social media, it looked good because it showed networking and it showed unity. There was no, for me, I never went on social media to kind of go, well, I'm competing with this person or that person. I went on there to learn, and that's exactly what I want to be doing even up until today. I love what people are doing, and I'll follow what they're doing, and I'll push them, and I'll ask them whether they want to, whether I can join in what they're doing, or whether they want to join in with me. So which is exactly one of the reasons. Now, I don't know whether Madge mentioned this, but I think one of the first shoots or documentaries that we did together about 4 or 5 years ago was exactly based around that. Mm-hmm. Where we got there was 23, 24 of us guys, all on social media, well known on social media at the time, who decided to get together under one roof. We used that opportunity because everyone was coming down for body power during that period, which only happens once a year, and it hasn't happened last year, and it seems to be getting worse and worse every year. But we used that opportunity. We thought, well, everyone's going to be here. There was going to be a few individuals from London and other parts of the country. So we thought, why not get everyone together and do a massive shoot? And then eventually, as we were doing the planning, and we managed to plan it within a couple of weeks, we somehow turned it around into a documentary.
Yeah.
And it was successful. It was good. Absolutely loved it. And everyone got along. Of course, there was no reason why they wouldn't, because we were very much out on the same journey. We knew about each other on social media, but it was all good and great, liking each other's content. But how much do you know about the individual, and would you like to meet them? Would you like to train with them? Would you like to ask them questions? That's what that opportunity was about. And we wanted to not only do that for a networking and a unity point of view, but we wanted to do that because there's individuals out there that deserve that level of recognition. And that's exactly why we started that out, and it was a success. And we did one just last year, which was the Seek Muscle event, held at Birmingham, Ultimate Fitness in Birmingham. And we set out an open invite for everyone, guys and girls, to get as much people involved as possible, create another successful event, because it just gave everyone the opportunity, even under COVID, rules and restrictions. We managed to make it happen because we started planning it last year, January, February. We had the gym. We had the number of people that wanted to get involved. Obviously we wanted to plan it better where there was other facilities, but obviously we had to follow the COVID guidelines. But we made it happen, and it was great. It was successful. We received tons of feedback. There was individuals who messaged saying, can't wait for another event, and they'd love to come to the next event. And I want to be doing more of these events going forward, not only to allow people on social media to network and collaborate with each other, but also for, again, educational purposes and recognition purposes especially. So what we're achieving off the back of this one is, since we've done the first event, which is 5 years ago, more and more people on social media have come to light in our community, with different backgrounds in fitness, whether that's boxing, mixed martial arts, CrossFit, bodybuilding and whatnot, and it's been great. So the purpose behind it is that you want to be able to give these people the level of recognition they deserve on a wider field, be it by sharing it with
a bigger platform.
Bigger platforms such as the Seek channels that we have available in the UK. So and I suppose it's kind of giving the youth out there motivation to get involved in fitness, to see how many others are doing it, and to see the level of unity that we bring together, and how we can all work together, regardless of what background you're in. And I think these events are about individuals and not so much about who's organised it and which gym it's at and all this and that, the other. It's about the people, because the people are the ones that are making it happen. So we always want to I always want to, sort of bring them forward, bring them to light. And going forward, we did one last year. Now the plan is to do one every year,
which is amazing. I was speaking to Manj about it as well, and he sort of mirrored basically what you were saying, and it is really good. And 100% agree, like not just on a unity side of things, but also like for those who are following the fitness and like the Seek fitness industry specifically, with all these platforms and pages, it's silly not to get involved, because most likely if a person is following yourself, they're going to be following Manj, they're going to be following the Seek Muscle page, the Fitness Forge page, which as we were talking beforehand in our when we were arranging this, I thought you were the admin of them pages, to be fair, but you get a lot.
Do you know what I get so many people asking me, are you the admin for Seek Muscle, or are you the admin for Fitness Forge? I'm like, no, I wish I had that much time. I now spend I just about have time to sort of sometimes manage my own page and put content on my own page. Because obviously now I think my focus has probably been more busy with work and whatnot, and I trying to get in training as much as I can. But well done to those who are the admins of those pages, because they're doing exactly what I want to be doing, like, which is giving people the recognition they deserve for their hard work. Seek Muscle, has been around for years, as long as I can remember being on social media, and I think I used to absolutely love the original page, and now obviously they've started out a new page for whatever reason. And obviously then you've got a new page which is again doing great things, such as Fitness Forge, giving people the recognition they deserve. And I think the more we bring light to this in our community, the better, because the idea is working together, and uniting together, to kind of deliver the same message as we're on the same journey.
And to go sort of full circle, it is like when you're first stepping into the gym, if you can see someone who looks like you is a more achievable goal, if that makes sense. So like for yourself,
Yeah.
it was the Godwater gym, but now like the social media. So like you don't, I don't know how to phrase this because I was going to say you don't need the Godwater gym, but obviously go to the Godwater, everybody. It's very important.
It's shut down. It's shut down now.
Well, when COVID's open, but you can see on like social media, like you can follow whoever you want, and there's so many people. Like I spoke to Azad Singh as well, who's fully vegan for 5-6 years now. So and again, like you said, encourage. You mentioned before, like encouraging eating roti in traditional Punjabi cuisine sort of thing. So if you're following that path and you want to remain like sort of loyal to faith and Sikhi and be vegan, and be like vegetarian, incorporating your faith in traditional cuisine. He's like a good example for that. If you want to get onto bodybuilding stages, yourself and Mandra's good for that. And obviously more, but I'm trying to like put into categories, if that makes sense.
I think I'm still a bit of an amateur in that sense. There's so many, there's other individuals whose name I'll bring to the top of the list, for when it comes to the go-to people. So for example, from a bodybuilding point of view, again, there is Randeep, who's probably been one of the first, and there's another one, Umgad, who's done several competitions. Again, he's another great individual. From a nutrition point of view, I can only think of Juggy, the Indian body coach, because he's been around again as long as I can remember, and I've met Juggy on several occasions. We've done training together, and if you watch and listen to some of his videos and his content, look at his content online, very educational. And again, very easy to approach. And we had him at the event, whereby we had a bit of a Q&A session where we gave individuals to ask any nutritional questions that they feel that might be beneficial to them, or areas that they struggle with from a diet point of view even. The knowledge and the education, the resources are out there. It's just a case of reaching out, and just asking the question, because you're never gonna, it's never gonna come to you. So if you want it, just reach out, and that's one of the reasons why we do these events. So guys like me at the age of 17, 18, 19, who weren't advised of any of that, and they wanted to achieve all that, they now have the opportunity going forward to get a head start, and be educated from an early age. So yeah.
100%. I couldn't agree more. It's the thing about relatability that is really important, because when you see someone who looks like you, it's more comforting to more achievable. Sorry, because like in that Q&A session is probably things that maybe a white personal trainer or a black person trainer might not take into consideration about genetics. Like Indian genetics are obviously different to anybody else, and nutrition, whether it be anybody in the South Asian community. Do you know what I mean? Like Muslims can't have anything that isn't halal, or a lot of Western sort of training plants have ground beef in, but if you're Hindu, that can't apply to you. Do you know what I mean? And as I was saying before, like with Azad, vegan, and if you are a very sort of strict Sikh and you are vegetarian, like practicing, then obviously that can be taken into consideration as well. So it's all these little things that just tailor it to you, and obviously everyone's going to be different, but if you can get as close to being tailored to you as possible from all the resources out there, then it's the best.
Yeah, because it's going to adapt to your lifestyle as well. And I think that's one of the important things. And as you said, so if it's someone within your community and they'll completely understand your lifestyle, because of the community you're in, having to avoid certain foods, understand your genetics and whatnot. So these are the benefits.
Yeah.
I think if we can keep these, I think the idea was we wanted to. I think my goal, what I want to achieve, is probably like an Indian body power, where we could even get some of the businesses, from our community who are involved in fitness, and I did, a gym chef, for example, being one of them. But there's tons more out there. Get them involved, get them to come, opportunity for them to speak a bit about their brands, speak a bit about their business. Because what you're doing then, you're also supporting each other, and I think that's key to be able to support your own, just as much as people are supporting their own gyms. So, it's an opportunity for everyone.
Definitely, I feel like without going too much into it, that is something that hasn't been very good for our community in the past, but obviously going forward, this younger generation hopefully can change that. And as I said before, there's enough to go around. Like, there's an abundance to go around. The people who will be following the Seek Muscle page will be following the people who feature on the Seek Muscle page. So there's
naturally,
do you know what I mean? So there's definitely enough to go around. The audience is definitely there. Going back to social media in general as a broader sense, now you have like around 12,000 to 13,000 followers on Instagram.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Don't worry. I checked before we started. You've got 12,000 to 13,000.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But obviously, because your sort of page has always been about fitness, and more recently, congratulations, you found a partner and things like that, and your missus has been featuring on your page. Do you feel pressure that you can't have all these different things, like, because you've had just solely gym content for so long, and then now you're becoming all romantic, and do you know what I mean? Like, do you feel the pressure of being on brand, quote unquote?
No, I don't know. I don't think it's ever stopped me from posting anything a bit personal. Whether it's a picture of being away on holiday and whatnot. We still post selfies and whatnot on there, but I think I did have, I think I still do. I have a personal Instagram page, which I don't really use anymore. I think I created that to try to keep it personal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then I thought, I think anything that I feel like it's too personal, it just remains on my phone, or like, as I mentioned, it probably go on like Facebook, which is a bit more private. But I think anything I post on the Fitness Haricules page, it's nothing that I feel I'd want to keep a secret. That I feel like that it isn't anything too private. Whereas now, the missus, she's got her own separate private page, which is purely just for her family and whatnot. But then she's also now, she's been into the fitness well before we met. So I think in fact, if anything, I've encouraged her to start her own fitness page, and she has done, which is amrit.fitness. So if anything, days where I'm slacking, she gives me the push. And now, which is kind of worked in my favor, and I'm kind of glad I've found the right partner, because she's able to be that training partner, or be that spotter now in the gym. Especially now, I think before I had, there was guys I used to train with because I was more in Birmingham, but since moving into Staffordshire, training at a different gym, it's kind of worked in my favor having a partner who's kind of also on the same mindset with the fitness. So yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, it's because the only reason I ask is because, like, when you get to like the 10K plus is, but when you start becoming like a bit more social media influencer, the term could be used, I guess, and everyone's grids are immaculate. There'll be like 3 in a row of this and 3 in a row of that and all this stuff.
I've never wanted to pattern or sequence my posts in that way. I think with my content, I try to keep it as genuine as possible. And if I feel like this is post worthy, I will just post it.
Yeah.
You know, I think if I'm honest, in the last, especially in the last year, I've taken a step back. In fact, sorry, in the last couple of years, I've taken a step back with the amount of input I give on my social media with my workout posts. Is because it's actually a good thing, because I realize that what I see everyone else doing now is exactly what I've already done, and like, you know, I did that 5 years ago. I post all my workouts, and I explained all my workouts, and I told them I did this many sets and this many reps, and it was great. And I haven't even really entirely stopped doing that. I've kind of gone in with a different approach. Well, now I think I probably want to post, because I've already posted that I've done these workouts. I'm not going to do a new video posting the same thing again. It's absolutely pointless. I'm either going to post something significant as an achievement where I've hit a PR, or I feel like I've done an incredible workout on this today, or I'm probably going to want to post something which is completely different, which I feel like I've not posted before. So whether that might be training outdoors, might be going cycling, or might be doing hiking, I'm kind of like just giving my social media a completely different approach. In fact, so my approach now is probably being workouts with my partner.
Yeah.
Which again is different, because you don't see that. You don't see many Asian couples working out together and posting their videos together.
Very true.
So I've kind of, and I'm kind of glad. I think I've done well with finding myself the right partner who's also on the same page with doing that. And that's the kind of approach I've gone with now. And that's what's made me change my social media. I don't feel like I'm doing it because I have to compete with someone. I'm doing it now because I've already achieved all that. And now I'm either going to post something about a journey of a new upcoming competition and get people to sort of follow that journey, or I'm either going to post a PR, or I'm either going to post a workout with my partner.
Yeah.
Where the personal part comes to it, I don't think I hesitate if we're out and about traveling or we're doing city stuff. I think we do that anyway. We do that on our stories and then sticking to the highlights. I don't feel like that's ever stopped me, or but again, if I feel like it's something too personal, then I'll probably just keep it on the phone, or I think she posts on her personal private page or whatever, as they do.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to the question, no, I don't really have an issue mixing a bit of personal, bit of fitness. I think I've done a bit of it, even though 80% of it is fitness.
Yeah. But it does work though. But like adding the personal touch is obviously always a good thing, because people are more invested in the person than information. Sometimes, like they want to see your journey as well as how much you can impact theirs. The other thing that I was going to say is it seems like a lot more natural, perhaps because you have, as you were saying before, this is like more of a hobby for yourself. So there's no real pressure anyway, because you just do it for fun.
Yeah, that's very true. Where people are working to a certain kind of layout, or making sure that all their posts fall in line and they very much look the same and the page looks very stylish, are the people probably with more of a business approach. People who are offering training plans, dieting plans, nutritional, coaching or whatever. So I can understand looking to and it's nice. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I think the way my approach is, it's just been very casual.
Yeah.
And I think I just like it the way it is.
Yeah. I'm probably a bit hypocritical saying like the 3 in a row, because I'm not gonna lie, on the KultureKast page that I have is pretty much like that setup at the moment. To be fair,
it's nice. It's nice. It's just the way I see it. If I'm honest, well done to those who do it, and and yourself. But I think it's too much effort.
No, it is, honestly, it really is. I feel like not doing it all the time, and then I'm like, oh well, I've already done it for this long, so I'm like just carry on with it. I don't know. I feel like it will change over time. You naturally evolve with the times, whether that be social media algorithms or your perspective on it. Like it might become more casual over time, or
I think I think that the hard, if I did that and I could, and I changed it up at some point, I think the hard thing for me there would probably be like, I don't know, for example, if I'm doing, if I'm following a certain sequence and all of a sudden I've managed to hit a PR. I'm the type of person that I can't wait to upload that PR.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to think of some really good posts, then upload that PR. And I'm like, no, I'm just gonna throw it in there.
Yeah, definitely.
So I suppose, yeah. So whereas what you're doing, like you said, I suppose if you've got, you're doing these podcasts and these interviews, I suppose your set layout is meaningful to each individual, from what I've seen, because it's very blocked out, isn't it, for every individual in that sequence, which is good, and there's nothing wrong with that because it fits your page. But if your page was fitness related, then I don't know how you would fit 3 posts in that sequence relating to that same fitness or that same workout.
Yeah. I think it's like different type of posts. So like for myself at the moment, because it's always it might change in the future, but it's like the first post is like, oh, this podcast's out now. Second post will be, this is information about the guest for the audience, and then the third post typically is like a highlight reel, like a trailer for that podcast. That's how I operate at the moment.
No, it's good. No.
But in my mind, it makes sense. But obviously, in the audience might be thinking, oh, I don't know why there's lines all over the place. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone's got a different.
What the hell's he doing?
Yeah, exactly. People like, what is this Babe group doing? Thinks he's too big for his boots, I think, already. Perhaps. So going back to fitness a bit as well, because I'm intrigued. Obviously, you're obviously a big guy.
I don't feel it at the moment. I think I'm struggling at the moment. I think as I said earlier, I'm one of those people that I find hard to put on weight. So I think, especially during lockdown, I'll tell you what the problem is at the moment. I do have a private gym where I train at. Does it have all the facilities? No, it doesn't. Do I feel a little demotivated? Yes, just like I think a number of individuals do. So at the moment, I'm really struggling. But what's happened because of the industry I work in, it's had an impact where they've become more busier, which means more work. So I've been so busy with work that I forget to eat sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think, so for me, yeah, I'm still training, but was this a good opportunity for me to put on weight? Yes, it was. Have I made the most of it? No, I haven't. So I think I'm not at the weight I want to be, and I think it'll probably take me a good couple of months to get there. So at the moment, I'm weighing 88. I checked a couple of days ago, 88 kilos. I wanna be at 100.
Right. Okay.
Which I think at the moment it just sort of seems impossible, but I'm gonna keep going.
Do you mind if I ask your height, just to put in perspective the 88?
Please don't. Please don't.
Okay, I'm not.
I'm 5'7".
That's not bad. What I thought you were gonna say like 5'2" or something. I was like, whoa, that Photoshop thing skills are mad.
You know what? You're probably saying it's not bad, but try standing next to Manj, who's 6'5".
Yeah.
Because when I stand next to him, have you seen? It's like Gandalf and Hobbit. when you put me and him together, it's like, when we take a picture together now, I'm like, listen, you better bloody sit down somewhere, because otherwise I'm not taking a picture with you. So yeah, oh gosh, I wish I was taller.
But for fitness and bodybuilding and putting on size and muscle mass, the shorter, like I was speaking to Manch, I'm like 6'2" myself, he's 6'5", so like it's a bit harder to get like a lot of muscle mass onto a larger frame. Like he was speaking of range of motion on like a bench, so he has to go onto like you're thinking, it's what I was saying before, isn't it, when I was saying the fat boys or look at the skinny boys, you're thinking these tall people are fucking complaining about this.
Yeah. I've had these conversations with him, and we had conversations where we might be on the bench press and he'll say, oh well, it's easier for you because your range is much shorter. And I'm scratching my head. I'm like going, no, because you're a much bigger individual. You're a much bigger guy. You should be your strength should be much better than mine because you weigh a lot more as well.
Mm-hmm.
So in my head, I'm thinking, you should be pushing a lot more than I am, and the range for you shouldn't be a struggle at all. But then I've also had guys taller than me saying, when I see them doing squats, and I'm like, dude, you need to be going lower. They're like, I can't go low like you because I'm taller, and I'm like, that's not the case. That's not what it is. So I don't know. I don't think height is the issue. I personally, if science can prove it otherwise,
Yeah.
no.
It's time under resistance though. It's time under resistance for a squat, especially. Right, we're traveling a lot further. Do you know? I'm gonna back up my tall boys here. Yeah, it's hard for us.
Okay, so if that's the case, if we're walking, and you're saying time, so you must be taking double the steps I am when you're walking. Then, so why would that be any different if your range in pushing weight is any different?
No. So it would take half of the time walking because our strides are longer, but it would take double the time coming down because we have further to travel.
Okay, if you can, it's fitness related.
Yeah.
If you can find me a documentary where it says it's harder for taller guys to put on weight, I will like. If there's some science theory behind that, I'll hold my hands up and be like, right, you know what, I'll give it to you guys.
Yeah.
I'll give it to you guys.
There'll probably be a study out there somewhere. Okay, I'll have a look. No, the only reason I was asking the stats in the first place without that sidetrack was mainly for diet. So you're 88 kg, a respectable 5'7" tall. How many calories like normally do you is your intake, and what's your diet like?
I aim to hit about. I say I aim. I don't think I ever achieve it, which is about 5,000 a day. Now that's what I should be. That's what I should be hitting. I don't think I'm anywhere near that. I'm probably just over 3.
Is that for a lean bulk 5,000, or is that for like a aggressive?
Gosh, I don't even have to give myself a lean bulk. I just have one of those, metabolisms where I can eat. I tried this once, and I experimented, and I went through a day. I had McDonald's for breakfast, right? I had KFC for lunch, and then I had a huge, large pizza, 8 slices for dinner, and that was it. And that was, including snacking and stuff. That was nearly 4,000 calories. I still got it the next day, lean.
Yeah.
And I can't, and that's probably because, especially during the prep stages where you're doing cardio twice a day, your metabolism is off the charts, because what you're having to do to get to lean, to get to absolutely shreds, is you do 60 minutes of cardio in the morning, which is fasted cardio. So you're pretty much not necessarily running, but you're pace walking. Incline for 60 minutes on an empty stomach. So you can consume water, which is absolutely fine. Then you go about your day, you consume, all your meals, and then come in the evening, you're hitting the weights. But straight after the weights, you're then having to do 30 minutes, and this is 5 days a week. Then you're then having to do 30 minutes on the Stairmaster. And the Stairmaster is a nightmare. So you're not only, you're absolutely tired from pushing all the weights, you're then doing 30 minutes. And what that does, it has a huge impact on your metabolism. So you imagine doing that for, I don't know, 8 weeks straight.
Mm-hmm.
So naturally, you've built your metabolism to consume the food and burn, burn the fat, burn the carbs, burn the calories in your body the way it does. So even when you stop and you come off that, your body's still in that cycle.
Yeah.
But that's,
and plus, if you want to cut as well, your body's always going to be craving more.
Yeah, but that's not for everyone. It depends how they've built their body up to that. As I said, I'm one of those individuals who's just been active from day one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably where I benefit from. So it hasn't been, trying to gain weight. Yes, it's been a struggle, but am I worried about, am I going to get fat? Probably not anytime soon. I'm pretty sure I hit some form of plateau, hit a brick wall at the age of 50 or whatever, at some point, where I'll be one of those Mr. Sings with, like he's hiding, like looking like a 9-month pregnant woman. So yeah, but until then, I think I'm just going to keep going. I don't think I'm concerned about putting on fat on. I'm not following a particular lean bulking diet. I'm just following a bulking diet. And if I can just get through that, that'd be good enough for me to achieve the weight I want to achieve before I think about shredding down to and it's not just about gaining weight, it's making sure that you've put on enough muscle mass, so when you shred, you're still holding that muscle mass. So you're achieving the physique that you want to achieve. And it's tricky. It's very tricky because it is pretty much all about consistency. Everything from the kitchen to getting your meals down to then going into the gym and training.
Yeah, it's a very like exact sort of science. It is a very specific sort of formula of all these all these things that have to mesh together perfectly during like an 8-week or 10-week period of cutting, like because especially like the effects it has on your body and things as well. I imagine as you're going down in calories and things and you're restricting your body, but you're increasing the work rate because you want to cut, like even mentally. And then if you start feeling mental effects, that's most likely going to have an effect on your body. So it mirrors each other all the time. It is really interesting. Like obviously growing up, I did watch like Arnold Schwarzenegger quite a lot, like Pump and Iron and things like these, and especially when you get into sort of like the gym, I think everything. I had an artist on a couple of weeks ago called Art by TD off on Melbourne, and I think it might have been after the podcast finished, we were just chatting. But everything's like art, in my opinion. Everything. When you're passionate about something, everything automatically becomes art. For an artist, that is actual physical art. But if you watch a cooking show, it's art on a plate. Do you know what I mean? By the end of it, if you watch a bodybuilding show, it is art. It's these people have sculpted their physiques. Like Ronnie Coleman, I think, is famous for saying that he took a picture of himself every single day. Then you would get a permanent marker and then basically draw on it where he would want to grow, and this part's too big for the competition today, or this part's too small. And then, as I say, I like boxing before, and it's called the sweet science. It's an art form. Do you know what I mean? Like everything is similar.
For every guy who's training and trying to achieve a certain type of build and trying to gain muscle, I'm sure they must look at every mirror in the house.
Yeah.
Because I do it. and I'll be honest, you wake up every morning and you love the feeling of the way you look before the first grain goes into your mouth and it bloats you instantly. So I think for a lot of people that work out, I think pretty much everyone does it,
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that Ronan Coleman was taking pictures. Arnold Schwarzenegger would look at himself in the mirror every day, and even till now, a lot of bodybuilders do. And I suppose it's making sure, especially competitors, because the slightest weighing of what you're eating can really change the way you look in the final stages before getting on stage when you're competing. And you have to make sure that your stress levels are low. You're not you're not stressed in any shape or form, because that has a huge impact. So and that's another interesting one, actually. People might be doing everything right in terms of training and dieting on the right diet, but if their mindset isn't there, then they're not really achieving the 100% that they should be achieving. And I say that because you might have individuals who are heavily stressed, personal problems, work stress, could be anything, stress, because it's very much about having the positive mindset. And if that isn't there, you might be going to the gym and you might not have an incredible workout, but you've had the workout. Have you really felt that workout? Probably not.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably not. And a lot of people aren't achieving the body they want to because of the mental stress. So when people aren't, when I've had individuals, females and both guys and girls, sorry, who said, I'm not losing weight, I'm doing this. Are you stressed? Yeah, I'm stressed about a lot of things. That's probably one of the reasons why you're not, because stress will cause weight gain as well. To female studies show that it has, to an extent, it has a hormonal impact, which is why they're not losing fat or weight quicker than what they expect. I say having the right mindset, just sort of going back for a lot of competitors, is because if someone's giving you negativity before you get on stage, that can really tamper with your approach when you're on stage, because of something negative that's in your head or some stress level, because then truly what you're not doing is giving it your 100%, because of the way that your mind's been impacted.
Yeah, because you're not going to be fully focused on one thing. There's going to be something in the back of your head.
Absolutely.
Another thing that you mentioned before was, I don't know if this is when you're normally training, but 5 days a week is, I'm guessing, how much you train. So is that 2 days a week off? Is that together, split up, or?
It's separated. So my typical week for training would generally be Monday, Tuesday. I'll have give myself Wednesday rest day, back on training Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And sometimes, I'll probably train the same muscle twice a week if it's not sore. So at the moment where I feel like my back and my legs need more work, need more development for the next category I want to enter, then I'm probably going to be pushing them twice a week. And it varies for everyone. Before early days, gosh, I used to be training arms twice a week because I wanted big arms.
Yeah.
I used to watch videos like CT Fletcher, who said he trained arms nearly every day.
Yeah.
And it's great, and I probably watch more YouTube videos for motivation. If I feel like I'm having a bit of a bad day and I need a bit of a kick up backside, then I'll probably watch, or I'll probably listen to some motivational speech, some pep talk, as you can call it, to kind of really bring myself back into the right mindset, just so I make sure I have an incredible workout. Generally it's 5 days a week.
Not just on your days off, but on other days as well. Do you do anything for recovery or like rehab? Like, when you're in proper competition mode, do you see like a physio or anything like that, or do you do anything for rehab?
I've seen chiropractors in the past. I think for me, chiropractors have probably worked more than physiotherapists, for areas where I've had some shoulder injuries or a back injury, from whether that's pushing too much weight or some form of muscle inflammation. I don't do anything different, but one of the best ways to recover and obtain recovery is just making sure that you're consuming enough food, enough carbs, enough protein, so that and you're taking the right vitamins. I think people generally ask, what are the common vitamins? So in bodybuilding, vitamin C, vitamin D, making sure you're taking your omega 3, 6, and 9s, just sort of keeping your joints in the rest, and vitamin B complex, and all these support your immune system, as well as your joints, and keep your healthy skin and whatnot. So I'll make sure I have those regularly, plenty of water intake, and at the top of my list, plenty of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can obtain as much sleep and rest as possible, sleep is probably where you grow, and it's key. So the more sleep you're obtaining, and I'm not saying use every opportunity to get a power nap. Just make sure that if you're going to bed, make sure you're getting your minimum 8 hours. But otherwise, don't overdo, don't stress the body out. So sleep is important, because I think, and that's another thing, which a lot of the youth now, they will possibly stay up all night, whether watching Netflix, playing PlayStation, or on social media, which a lot of people do spend hours, and they will only get 6-7 hours a day, and they're constantly tired, and then they've got to get up the next day, and it's the same work routine, and because of a terrible sleep, it would not then fall in line with what their whole diet during the day might miss breakfast, or and it's a cycle of things. So I think just making sure that you've got a good sleeping pattern, consuming plenty of water, although they say minimum 2 liters. If you can get more down, you do it. There's tons of factors that you got to take into account.
A vitamin that seems to I don't know if the popular is the right word, because it is obviously a vitamin and it's very important, but that I've been seeing a lot more recently is B12, especially with fitness people. Do you know anything about that you could like tell me? Because I've seen like a few B12 clinics and things where you get jabs of B12 and things, but I wasn't very sure of what it does.
It's okay, so they all similarly work in the same way. I don't take one which is particularly B12. I take Bisolgol, which is been recommended to me, which is a B complex. So it is the tree of all the B vitamins. So it will have B12, B11, and B9 and whatnot in there, and that pretty much does all the same things. The reason why it's a popular one is because it supports endurance to the individual, and a lot of footballers take it. So I don't know whether you've heard of so they take which is called it's almost like a juice pack, where I think GPs and doctors were prescribing to them, and it's called a cocktail mix as well. Some call it a cocktail mix depending on what type of vitamins are in there. And some footballers take it, and there are others. And all it is, it's rather than taking it in tablet form, it's usually injected straight into the body.
Right. Okay.
And it comes on like a drip.
Yeah.
It's in one of I've tried it, and mine was a mix, and it did have vitamin B in there, and it's on one of my older posts. I'll share it with you. I did it, gosh, I did it a couple of years ago now, where I was asked to trial it, and it lasts a month. Cost price, it varies depending on what type of cocktail mix it is, and it's really funny how they call them a cocktail mix, but they're generally a mixture of vitamins to suit the individual, because you'll get some which are for anti-aging, you'll get some which are for your endurance, you'll get some which are generally just to support the immune system. There's different types. I can't, from the top of my head, I can't really tell you specifically what vitamin B12 does, but again, what they all generally highlight is to support your immune system.
Yeah, I think this past like 18 months, probably less than that now, obviously, is when COVID started last March. 12 months more like. A lot of people have been highlighting obviously vitamins and supplementation a lot more, and rightfully so, because especially with the background that we come from, vitamin D being supremely important, because obviously we don't get it that much in this country, but obviously like other ones like zinc, iron, and you've all seen the memes of every Asian girl's on an iron tablet or something, so I could see you looking over at someone over there.
No, it's because we had a conversation not long ago about this, about the number of people in our community that are anemic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was told at a young age I was anemic, but I've recently done some blood work, some blood tests, and especially what we get advised to do that straight after once we've competed, because of the amount of stress we put the body under, and whether you look at it because of the steroids that you've taken and all that other stuff, it's very important to get your blood tested, so you get some blood work done. At no point, in fact, it said that my iron levels were great, and I don't appear to have ever been anemic.
But you were told when you were younger that you were anemic.
Yeah, and they say that because, and then I asked the question, and they said, "Oh, it's because you were always fatigued," and somebody told us that, "Oh, you're probably anemic." So it was a guess. It's one of them ones where they assume, and
Right.
And assumptions is a big thing in our community.
No, but I actually got my blood tested the beginning of last year, and it was because of fatigue, but also because of like a weak immune system at the time, because I just kept on getting ill. like the Christmas of 2019, and when I got my blood work done, they came back and said, yeah, you're anemic, so you need to raise your iron levels and all this stuff. And never before I'd have heard anything like relating to that whatsoever. But it just came sort of out of the blue. But it is a weird one. Sorry, I interrupted there. Continue.
No. You're right. You're right. It is a common one, and it is common in our community, amongst high blood pressure and whatnot. So there's there's tons of vitamins out there, but don't take them if you don't need them, because what you'll find is that some people don't really need iron tablets. I always advise people to get a deficiency testing, so which is sometimes there's some labs out there, you could do it online, you can send a few strands of your hair in, possibly even send your blood in, and they send it off to a lab, and they come back with then they'll tell you things like what you're lacking in, what you should avoid. I done one, 5 years ago, where I sent a few strands of my hair to this lab. A week later, they sent a report back to me, and they said that I should avoid cocoa, which is chocolate. And I was like, I think they got it wrong. I think they've mixed my report with someone else, because there's no way I'm stopping chocolate. But yeah, they generally just sort of come back and they say that your water intake needs to be high. It's showing that you're dehydrated, which was very true, because I didn't drink a lot of water. So it's basic things like that, and it's good to know. But it's also good to know if you suffer from any of the allergies, and it's good to identify, whether I don't know whether you are lactose intolerant, or any you have gluten intolerant or anything like that at all. So,
sensitive to any foods.
Yeah. Growing up, I never once heard of gluten intolerant, lactose intolerant. It just wasn't common, and it makes you question, has the food industry changed over the years, where people are now suffering from these conditions. I'm now in the recent years, I've never seen so many gluten-free products, lactose-free products. Margarine, plant soy milk, and almond milk. So it's important just to get yourself tested, to sort of find out, see whether you have any deficiencies, and if you want to go further, you can, if you don't want to get tested by your local GP or whatever, you could get blood work done. There's plenty of labs out there online where you could send a test kit out to your home and send it off, and you get results within a week.
Yeah, it is really good nowadays. Like, you can even get like these chewable vitamins that are tailored to you and things like that. There's a whole host of things online. Like, the thing that I always find funny is that it's very expensive to be healthy, but relatively cheap to be unhealthy. So as long as you're willing to pay that investment off long term for your own health, then obviously there's so many things out there.
There's cheaper ways of doing it. A lot of people will resort to the easy method, and that depends on how much time you have and whatnot. Like you said, you might they might give you some chewables which are catered for you, but they'll charge you double the price of what you can get out in a retail store. I probably wouldn't bother. I think I'd be quite comfortable, go for the cheaper option and making sure that I just follow it, because it does the same thing. But the thing about, I'm quite glad you mentioned that. The problem here is, and I've had a look into this, you might get something that's tailored to you, but is it as strong as effective as it might be from a brand that just entirely focuses on that? So I think one of the best top quality brands out there for vitamins and minerals is Solgar. A little bit more dearer in price to the average price of vitamins, tablets and whatnot, but it's a quality, and what you're paying for is what you're putting into your body. So if you're investing in your health, make sure it's of good quality and it's not just for the sake of it.
Yeah.
And that's where I see it.
Yeah, definitely. Again, it's like I know a lot of Indian people like money, so just put it in investment terms as like you're investing in your health going forward. Do you know what I mean? So it's probably the most relatable way to put it.
Just say we'll just say that there's a sale, and I'm sure they'll all be there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, everyone's trying to save money where possible, which is good. But you should, the way I see it, just never take your health for granted.
100%, especially this past year that we've had. I think that is probably why it's been highlighted so much, is because everybody's health is in jeopardy, especially with this new strain, which is apparently is attacking not just old people but quite young people as well. What I like to do at the end of each podcast is the same 5 questions for every single guest. So we'll get started with these. Is number 1 is, what are you most proud of?
What I'm most proud of? I think, gosh, no real significant achievement that stands out. I think I'm proud of myself for where I've come to in life. I'm happy with my career. Really happy with my career. I think I've always wanted to be, an IT project manager. That's exactly where I am. I will continue to progress further. I think I've followed the basics in life: get a degree, get a job, get married, and whatnot. I've managed to, build a fitness platform for myself and be able to give recognition to others and support others. And I will continue to do so. But when it comes to life achievements to date, there's no significant one that stands out, other than apart from the fact that I'm glad and I'm very happy to where I am in life.
Number 2 is, what are you most looking forward to?
COVID to be over. Looking forward to life back to normal. Gyms are open. I'm looking forward to a number of things. We've got a number of things planned out this year, but I'm always looking forward to progressing. But if you're asking me what I'm looking forward to this year, I'm looking forward to the world to return back to normal, and get a holiday.
Yeah. Number 3 is, what is your biggest motivation?
My partner.
Number 4 is, what is your definition of success?
Knowing that you've set yourself a goal, an achievement, and having met that goal or achievement.
And last but not least, because it's the KultureKast podcast, how do you think your culture has affected you in your journey thus far?
Oh, that's an interesting one, isn't it? How's my culture affected me? Quite glad to have been brought up in the culture I have. Affected me, I'm gonna say, I'm assuming the question is referring to in a positive way.
Anyway, to be fair, I haven't had any negatives yet, but there's always time for a first.
I hope not. I'm quite proud, actually. I think my culture has probably given me the motivation to achieve where I am and what I'm doing in life to date, because I want to be able to represent us as Sikhs amongst many other great individuals out there who are on a like-minded path. But I think I wouldn't have done events like the Sikh Muscle event if I wasn't doing it for my culture. Gosh, it's it's how's it affected me positively.
That's amazing. And again, I've really enjoyed this, and thank you for carving out some time. Is there anything that you want to say before we wrap up, or?
No, I'm quite happy. I'm quite glad. I haven't even realised how long we've been in it for. It's been very relaxed, very casual.
Yeah.
I think I'm quite glad because I got to talk about a lot of the things that I don't hear many people talk about. I think a lot of people just like to, I haven't seen all the podcasts, and I'll be honest with you. I don't like, when people sugarcoat things. I like it to be very, very real, and very factual. So I think I think the way today's gone, I think I've just had the opportunity to speak my mind,
Mm-hmm.
which is good. So no, thank you. And